Good evening, everyone. This is Ari Kopel with Shattering the Matrix. Tonight, I have a very special and distinguished guest. Jay Weidner is with us tonight. And for those of you who don't know him yet, Jay Weidner is the former director of content for Gaia.com and called by Wired magazine an authority on the Hermetic and alchemical traditions. Jay Weidner is a renowned filmmaker, author, and scholar, considered to be a modern-day Indiana Jones for his ongoing worldwide quest to find clues to mankind's spiritual destiny via ancient societies and artifacts. And his body of work offers great insight into the circumstances that have led to the current global crisis. He is a director and writer of the feature film The Last Avatar, director of the critically acclaimed documentary Infinity: The Ultimate Trip Journey Beyond Death, and writer-director of the documentary series on the work of Stanley Kubrick, Kubrick's Odyssey and Beyond the Infinite. Jay was featured in the History Channel's documentary, The Lost Book of Nostradamus, and was an associate producer and featured in the History Channel's special Nostradamus 2012, and he was also featured in the documentary Room 237, in Brad Meltzer's Decoded, and in Jesse Ventura's Conspiracy Theory on True TV. He is the co-author of The Mysteries of the Great Cross of Hende, Alchemy, and the End of Time, published by Destiny Books, and A Monument to the End of Time with Vincent Bridges. Jay, thank you so much and welcome to Shattering the Matrix. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. I think the last time that you were on the show, it was back on 2013 or something like that. And I think the topic was archons and Rennes le Chateau. I don't know if you remember the topic, but we had like, I don't know, 80 something thousand viewers. So that was a pretty dynamic show. So the reason I reached out to you, Jay, is because you are so insightful. You have so much information, and especially with respect to the things that are happening today. And, you know, I just can't keep up with the news. I don't know if you can, but every day tops the next, you know, the day before, right? It just gets worse. So I wanted to kind of like have a conversation with you and see what your information is, what you're picking up, from just even the posts that you share, what you're picking up from the world, what are your insights with respect to what's going on? Because, there's just, I think that there's an information war going on, and sometimes alternative news channels are also compromised sometimes. They get a lot of intel that's, psyops. So I was just wondering what your knowing is on all of this information and what's happening in the world today.
Well, we're moving. What's going on is that we're moving from one age to another, and there is a group of people who don't want that to happen, or even worse, they want to control the next age. And so they're doing everything they can to control what's about to come. But what they don't understand is that the next age is not it's about decentralization. And that's not like something that you can dictate. It's like when time is time. And so when you're 12 years old, you go into puberty, and when you're 60 years old, you get gray hair, and eventually you die, and there's nothing you can do about it. And so when an age happens, you can't control it. It just happens. You can't stop puberty. You can't stop becoming an adult. And so that they can't really stop what's about to go on. So what they're doing is in their view, it's not going to work. In my view, it's not going to work, because the age of Aquarius is not going to be an age like the Piscean age, which was an age of centralization, top-down management, war and killing, and destruction of the environment and all of that. The next age, the age that we just entered, is going to be one of decentralization, people pretty much living in their area without leaving too much because transportation is going to become so expensive.
Yeah.
And people are growing their own food and they're going to be hooked together by the internet. And we're not going to deal with the things that we're dealing with in the same way. So the entire mechanism of modern society has to fall apart in order for this to happen. And so, and it is falling apart, and it's falling apart rather quickly. And the more that they try to put a firm grip on it, the more it falls apart. And so now the mafia that's been running the world for, well, 500 years at least, is starting to lose their grip. And they're, one of the things that I talk about all the time here recently is that the streaming model for movies and entertainment is a failed model, and the companies that are doing it, whether it be Netflix, Amazon, or Gaia, or whatever, are hiding the fact that they're all failing from the stockholders.
Yeah.
And so the end of the mafia-controlled entertainment industry is actually truly at hand. And the banking industry is going to be destroyed by cryptocurrencies, and every single thing that they have been enforcing on us is slipping out of their control, and that just makes them more insane and more greedy and do crazier and crazier things. And so we kind of, have to decide whether we're going to let the children throw a temper tantrum and then just ignore it and hope they get exhausted and fall down finally, or we have to go into the room and do a correction. And so that's where we're at, and we have to decide which one we're going to do. We're going to let these idiots throw a gigantic temper tantrum that might cost us the entire world,
Yeah.
or are we going to act like adults and go in the room and paddle their butts, because that's what they need. And but it's pretty much, they have thrown the dice. Here's the thing that's so important: they've already done what they're doing. There's no turning back.
That's true.
And they have to keep doing what they're doing, because if they ever stop, they're going to get arrested. So they're going to have to keep doing it. And so we are going to have to make some very serious decisions here. I'm pretty sure that whatever happens in 2024 is not going to, I don't think there's going to be any election in 2024. If there is, it'll be a complete sham. And it's a small minority that's running the whole thing, and that is also a real problem, because why are we, the majority, being pushed around by this small minority?
Exactly.
And we have to stop it. And if we don't stop it, it's an existential threat. That's what I think we've all come to the decision that we now face an existential threat, and that we either die or we stop it. That's the choice.
Well, either way, we have to stop it.
Yeah, when people are under that kind of, most people never in their life face an existential threat until maybe the end.
Right.
But for those of us who have faced existential threats, we know that a whole different psychology takes over when you think your life is about to be ended. You think a different way, you act a different way, and you do unexpected things to make sure that you live and survive. So anybody who's ever been like tracked by a mountain lion like I have knows that you have to start using parts of your brain that you never used before, because if you don't, you're going to die. And that's where we are now. And so so we are now in this psychological state of facing an existential threat but our enemy is not in that state. Our enemy is laissez-faire. They're just going on like they're doing it. They're not worried. They haven't been in a fight in years. They don't know how to fight. And so there's two different psychologies at work. And frankly, the existential, the people who are in a state of realizing that they're in an existential threat happening to them have the psychological advantage.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, there's a different ways, I guess, or levels of this. For example, the cryptocurrency that you mentioned a while ago, because I have a feeling they're using that also as a way of control. Um, do you feel the same way? That they're going to put everybody into this digital currency situation where everybody's going to be on some kind of social credit, and it all depends on whether you like what you have to say on Facebook or they don't, whether you get to eat tomorrow, and they'll control how much, you get to eat. Do you feel that that's another aspect? Because there's so many layers. They're basically fighting a war with us on so many different fronts that we just can't keep up. So I'm just curious what your take is on that, because you did mention cryptocurrency.
Well, I think, that cryptocurrencies aren't going to be the answer or anything. And I'm not sure that the digital dollar is actually going to work.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm trying to see how it unfolds, and I can't see it working. Just that people don't realize how ubiquitous the dollar is, that people all over the world use the dollar because it maintains somewhat of its value. So everybody, like in of the poor countries of South America and in Africa, they all use the dollar.
True.
And uh, they're not equipped really to switch over to a digital dollar. I'm not sure any of us are, and I'm not sure it even works. So if I have $20 and I give it to you, and you go and you get your hair cut, and then the barber takes the $20 and he goes and buys some groceries, and the grocer takes that $20 and goes and pays off his heating bill, and then the heating company takes that $20 on and on. When they all get done, that $20 is still worth $20.
Sure.
So
Within our community, though, in our community being, of course, maybe the United States, but what happens when something like a BRICS situation happens, where, global trading is now no longer in dollars, it's in other currencies. So how does that affect all the people that live in the United States?
well, my sources tell me that the whole BRICS thing is blown way out of proportion.
Hmm.
India hates China. Um, Russia's not too fond of China either, not really. South Africa just joined. They're super unstable. Uh, they're it's just a lot of nothing really, and they're not going to come up with anything. Are you really going to trust a currency run by BRICS? Are corporations going to trust a currency run by BRICS, even if it's gold backed? I don't think so. I'm not saying that I'm pro dollar either. I think the dollar stinks, but I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of publicity trying to put BRICS way up there when I frankly I wouldn't trust Russia or China or South Africa with anything. And Brazil and India, I might trust to a certain degree, but these are all second-rate powers who never really run anything, and they're large in their existence. And I don't see any of that happening. In fact, I see a lot of things happening that aren't going to happen. I see everybody saying a whole bunch of things are going to happen that I actually don't think are going to happen. I don't think the BRICS currency is going to happen. I don't think electric vehicles are going to happen. I don't think. Um, I think that you remember this. What was it called? Oh yeah, you remember this language Esperanto?
Sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't
Yeah,
just
exactly.
remind everybody.
Sounds vaguely familiar. Exactly. 30 years ago, there was this huge hoopla about a universal language called Esperanto, which is a combination of English and Spanish and German and Russian and it was like just as big as all the stuff that they're talking about now.
Wow.
And fizzled out, it went away, and just like all these other things are going to fizzle
Mm-hmm.
out and go away.
Mm-hmm.
And we're there we have like mentally challenged people presenting ideas for our future that do not hold water. I mean, we can't. Uh,
Well, I mean, even the science behind a lot of the stuff they present is just totally, warped, totally warped. And the EV of those vehicles, the electric vehicles, I mean, what are they going to do with all those cars, the gasoline cars? What are they going to do? Pile them up and create, massive, cemeteries of cars? I mean, doesn't that, renege everything that they're saying about the environment and all this stuff that they're saying? We're going to have piles and piles of junk vehicles. I just don't understand that whole concept, but I think you're right. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere with
well,
the
the
EV
thing is,
vehicles.
if you actually do the math, uh, a gallon of gasoline still burns cleaner than anything electric,
Mm,
because
God.
yeah, once you do the mining of the lithium
Oh, yeah.
and add everything together, electric car doesn't cost $80,000. Electric car in its real cost is probably more like
Oh,
$800,000.
my goodness.
And
Wow.
we're subsidizing this, and it's just complete insanity. And and the WEF and the United Nations, they've decided that they're going to get rid of the gasoline powered vehicles, that they're going to get rid of growing food. Apparently growing food is bad for the environment.
Hmm.
And so these ideas are almost criminal, actually.
They really are. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And go ahead.
what do you think about the situation where now that you're speaking about food, they're just taking over farmers' land. They're just making it criminal to be able to raise livestock. I mean,
Yeah,
that's all part of their agenda to starve us,
I'm
right? To
sorry.
starve us. So what is the point of is it part of the depopulation agenda to
Yeah, that's
starve
what they're
everyone?
doing.
Mhm.
That's their whole goal is to get us down to 500 million. That's why they destroyed the Georgia Guidestones, because they wanted to make sure that wasn't on the record anymore. And they did the Georgia Guidestones right at the very beginning of the Depop. As I have a T-shirt that says "Depopulation begins with you," and scares all the hippies in my area. So yeah, for instance, I have a very large garden. For years, I always wanted to have a big garden, and I never could because I had a corporate job and it takes so much work. But then when I moved out into the country in 2018, I decided to follow my plan and get my huge garden going. And I've been very, very successful. But in the last month or so, I've been looking at my very large garden and thinking about the fact that pretty soon there's going to be a satellite photo on
Oh man.
Google Earth of my garden, which isn't on there now because the satellite photo was from 2016, so it was before. The one that's up now is before I put my garden in. So when they do change the photos of Google Earth and everybody can see my place from above, they're going to see that I have this huge garden. I actually am worried that the government's going to come in and tell me I have to stop watering my garden.
Mm, that's
I mean,
terrible.
yeah, it's like I can't even have a garden anymore. Really? And
I'm amazed it's so prolific, because of all the chemtrailing. Do you have a lot of chemtrails where you're at?
no, we don't have any
That's good.
airport traffic hardly at all.
Oh, that's
I live
good. Yeah.
literally in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah.
and yeah, so
Mine
yeah,
started excellent. It was wonderful. Oh my God, it was just so lush and beautiful. And then, yeah, the chemtrails. Oh my gosh, and it's just burnt everything. Everything
we
was
haven't
just
had we haven't had a drop of rain in over 2 months, so I know what you mean.
wow, wow. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that the next phase would be maybe greenhouse gardening. It's the only way to probably get rid of those chemtrails. And then what are you going to do with the water? The water is also contaminated. So it's just one thing and another. It's a lot of fronts again that we're
Well,
fighting.
it's like okay, so every forest must burn, all right, eventually. Okay, so that's how it gets renewed. And the longer that you prevent the forest from burning, the worse the fire is going to be, right? So that's what we're in right now. We have the earth is populated by a whole bunch of people that are just using resources and not giving anything back. And that is a fact. And so there's going to be a forest fire of the humans, you might say.
Mm-hmm.
We're all things that were prevented from dying are now going to die. And they are dying. I mean, we have just in my small town, we're having somebody die like every week.
Wow.
And it's happening everywhere. And the death rates are what are they up to 20% or something for 2022 over 2019 or something like that, something huge amount. It's the same amount as if we were in World War II. That's how many people we've lost in the last 2 years.
Amazing.
And that all started in the summer of 2021. So we have to kind of look at what happened in the summer of 2021 that would cause suddenly this increase in excessive deaths. So,
Right.
and, I'm not going to look into what happened in 2021, but you guys can.
You mean you don't want to say it?
I don't want to say it.
I
No.
gotcha. I gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, but and now they're going to do it again.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't think it'll work, but uh, I don't think anything's going to work anymore. Actually, I think the whole system is going to completely fall apart. And then let's talk about those poor people in Maui. Oh my God,
I know.
those poor people. Do you know how long it takes to get a new refrigerator in Hawaii?
No.
It's a year and
Why?
a half,
Why?
because it's out in the middle of nowhere. Now you have to ship it in.
Have to bring it in big
Yeah,
ships and stuff. Yeah.
everything, a microwave oven, an oven, anything that you need is good. Those people are, oh man,
They're completely isolated over there.
and you can't get in there, and and yeah. What I tell people is that if you really understand what happened in Maui, you should have every alarm bell going off in your head.
So what's your take on it?
It's a gigantic take by a company we fondly call Dark Stone. That's not its real
Mm-hmm.
name,
Mm-hmm.
but that's who this is all behind all of this. And this is the Dark Stone is the final end of the corporate takeover. And all the money's flowing in. Darkstone is the reason that the streaming business is going on. Darkstone told all the film studios to abandon network television, abandon cable television, and for the most part, abandon theater release and just
Wow.
put everything straight to streaming. Now they did that so they could control everything that is being produced, right?
Wow.
But what they didn't tell them is that streaming actually doesn't work. And most of the investments that Darkstone is investing in aren't going to work. It's not like they're not trying to invest in things to make money. They're trying to invest in things to alter society.
Right.
And they're being flat out straight up saying it. So, I mean, it's the real question is, are we going to let a company have that kind of monopoly? And I think we can't. We have to break them up.
Yeah, I agree. Or, and starve them if we can, boycotting. I mean, I'm always about boycotting people, companies and all these woke companies that are, just pushing ideologies on people that are just so against our foundation, our morals, and so
Yeah,
and if we can tank, I mean, Netflix, I mean, I know that their sales went down drastically, especially when that Cuties movie came out. We can definitely, we did that with Bud Light. We can do that with a lot of the companies that they are backing, I'm pretty sure.
and we should make an active movement out of that.
I agree.
Another thing that we should be talking about, and nobody is that if you like I have recently, if you drive through the West, um, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, Utah, Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, California, Oregon, and Washington. Not so much Oregon and Washington, but in the rest of those states, if you get to up to, take a highway up to 10,000 feet, all of the forests are dead. All of them in every one of those states, they're all dead, and they're not taking the trees out.
Oh, wow.
They're leaving all the trees. Right now I am looking up at a 14,000-foot mountain in Colorado, and the entire side of the mountain from 10,000 feet up to tree line is dead. And I mean dead. I'm talking thousands and thousands of dead trees all over the whole western United States. And I have no idea, no idea where this is all going to end. But
So what do you think is the cause? Is this like natural,
they
again,
say,
chemtrail situation or what? What, the
well,
heat?
they say it's the beetle,
Oh, goodness.
the pine beetle. I guess it could be the pine beetle, but I don't think it is. Um, but I don't know. I don't know what's killing it. All I know is that the United States is headed towards the mother of all forest fires at
Mm.
some point in our future.
Oh.
And I mean, ones that make the ones in Canada look like a Boy Scout picnic. So
Yeah, and I think Oregon is having huge fires. I mean, there are fires everywhere. Have you noticed how many fires are popping up everywhere globally? I mean,
yeah, it's pretty.
Turkey's having a massive one. I believe Greece
Yeah,
is having one, Argentina. I mean, it goes on and on. I mean, it's not just Maui, but of course, Maui hits home because it's home. But
yeah, but the
oof.
Quebec fires,
Oh
they had
yeah,
what, 6 fires started hundreds of miles apart,
yep,
all at the same moment. What?
coordinated.
Come on.
I know, I know.
Um,
Now British
you know,
Columbia is burning.
yes, it is, which is
Oh,
really surprising because they used to brag that they would never get fires. They used to sneer at California because California was always burning, and now they're burning. So
yeah.
here, it may be coming to you too.
Oh, I know,
But
right?
yeah, so that's you know um when in back in the 1920s and the 10s in the United States, they had these traveling carnivals that would go from town to town. And these carnivals I've always thought of as being kind of a microcosm of the modern world. And so these, these dusty Midwestern towns, farm towns, with nothing going on, would suddenly this carnival would show up, and the carnival would have burlesque, and they would be selling opium laced snake oil, and they would have fake fights every night with fake blood and strippers, and so for about 2 weeks, the town would be immersed in sex and drugs and violence and raunchy music and the whole thing, until finally the people in the town began realizing that they were getting fleeced by the carnival, because the carnival had certain tricks that they used to
Yeah.
get everybody's money. And so the townsfolk would eventually start getting a mob together to go out and get their money back from the carnival that fleeced them. But the carnival had already, the first thing the carnival did when it gets to town is it targets the sheriff and compromises the sheriff. So the sheriff will tell them when the townspeople are getting pissed off so that they can split. And then if the townspeople actually catch up to or start actually coming out to where the carnival is, the carnival owners always had a guy stashed back in town who would burn down the town center.
Hmm.
So everybody would have to rush back to stop the fire. So what I'm
Unbelievable.
trying to tell you is that they use fire to get away with a whole bunch of stuff, and they always have.
Yeah.
And the same people and so the carnival, and you can't find out almost anything about the old time carnivals. There's nothing, no history about them or anything. I've looked into it because I was going to do a screenplay about them. And the carnival was the beginning of the modern world, and the modern world has now turned into what the carnival was then.
Yeah.
It is now sex, drugs, music, violence, and all the rest.
It's all
And
theater.
so
All theater.
all theater, all
Mm-hmm.
theater,
Yeah.
exactly. So when you if you were a wealthy farmer and you walked into the carnival, you know, you're a stupid, naive guy, and you open up your wallet, they had a mirror up above where you would pay for things, and they could see how much money you had in your wallet. And so a guy would see it, and if you had a lot of money, he would put a little piece of charcoal onto his palm, and he would come by and he'd pat you on the shoulder, and that was putting a mark on you. So
Oh,
now you've been marked. So now
wow.
everywhere you go in the carnival, all the carnival workers know that you've got a lot of money. And so the girls will try to seduce you, and they'll try to give you opium and all the other things. So and
Amazing.
that was the reason I wanted to make a movie about it, because it was such a microcosm of
Hmm.
what the modern world has become.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about that.
Oh, and
Um,
gambling. They also had gambling.
Gambling, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything that had to do with vices, right?
Yeah. And they were
Anything
run
that would
by
get you
the same.
addicted.
Yeah, and I'm going to be careful here, but they were run by the carnies were run by um, the Khazarian mafia.
Oh, wow. That that
Yeah,
that's a shocker.
I'm
Wow, I fell
sure.
off my chair.
Yeah, big shock.
Yeah, yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah, kind
So,
of a low level Khazarian mafia, but
yeah.
they were still the Khazarian mafia, and then they had to give money back to the mob, right? So the mob would
Mm,
protect them. Yeah.
unbelievable how far back this whole thing goes, and it's probably even further back, right? It goes back
Oh
really
yeah.
far. Yeah, from the beginning of history, probably.
Yeah,
So
it does. It
what are
does.
your thoughts about all the different psyops, right? That they're this wonderful shadow government of ours and global shadow government has on, different fronts, right? Because we have the all the stuff with the pandemic situation, and then we had not too long ago we had that David Grush guy with the
Yeah.
disclosure, or I don't know, and then shortly after that there were these Peru aliens that were supposedly kidnapping a little girl or kidnapped a little girl. What's your take on all this? Do you think that they're going to push this forward, a little bit faster than? I mean, it's just what a coincidence. We had the David Grush guy talking about these what are they, UAPs, and then all of a sudden you have these Peruvian aliens. What are your thoughts about how quickly they started doing that?
Well, I mean, there's two schools of thought, I guess. Some people think that they're, I mean, high level people that I know, people that were in the AFOSI, tell me that there really are aliens and that we're in contact with them and everything. But I'm such a skeptic that I can't buy it. So I just can't. Here's the thing. When I went to Bali, I had to get like 10 shots, right? And I vowed I would never go to another place again where they made me get shots, right? But my immune system would be attacked, they said, if I went to Bali, because I'm not ready for that, right? We know that when
Right.
the Europeans arrived in America, they gave, all sorts of European diseases to the Native Americans.
Of course.
Okay, so how can an alien come from a world that's completely different than ours,
Hmm.
land here, and not have its immune system completely attacked?
Exactly.
Doesn't make any sense. And so I don't buy it. Now I will stretch it and say there there is a high probability that there is an unknown country somewhere on Earth with a highly advanced civilization that is hidden from us. I do believe that. And I don't know where that is. I don't know and have any idea where this unknown country is. But I know that if I look back through history, there's been human interaction with higher intelligent humans going back all the way back to Akhenaten. So so somebody's been messing with us.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're humans, and I think they live here on Earth.
Do you think they're underground?
I do.
Hmm.
I think
What do you think about Telos? Do you think that's real? Have you heard of
I think
Telos?
I think it could be, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I think that I think that how a volcano that is not active has a big all these big caverns inside it. I've been inside the tunnel system in Mount Shasta. It's gigantic.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I mean I couldn't throw a ball and hit the ceiling. It'd be
Hmm.
impossible.
Wow.
And so, well, the guy that um, the alchemist that changed my life. His name was Fulcanelli, and if you break down the word or the name Fulcanelli, it's Vulcan, which is volcano, and Canelli, which is tunnel.
Wow.
And I was kind of, well, I wonder what that means, tunnel in the volcano. And then I was talking to Nassim Harriman one time, and I told him, I said, well, Fulcanelli's name means, tunnel in the volcano, and his eyes just got really big, and he goes, do you know what that means? And I go, no. He goes, well, because volcanic tunnels have highly compressed metals around them, and they're circular. They create a electromagnetic vortex, which creates portals.
Oh
And
yeah.
I was like, really? And he said, yeah, and you can use them as portals. And then I began going through all this literature and finding all these stories about people who were spelunkers who'd gone into volcanic tunnels and had all sorts of strange and weird experiences, even including like walking through portals and stuff. So
Wow.
I've become convinced that the ancients must have known that that these tunnels could be used for all sorts of different things than we ever dreamed of.
So do you think that they're doing some type of either time traveling through there, or are they actually maybe going through these portals and popping up in a different dimension? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Did Nassim say anything to you about that?
Yeah, no, that's what he said. He said that's what he thinks they are.
But I mean,
And
in terms of the multi-dimensional, I mean, is that what he was saying?
yeah, but more like you pop up in other places.
I gotcha.
You pass through it and you pop up and you're still the same time period,
I gotcha.
but you pop up in different places on
Hmm.
Earth, usually around other volcanoes, is what he said.
Wow.
So volcanoes are strange. They have um they emit plasma. They have lightning storms all the time around them when they're going, and UFOs are constantly being seen around volcanoes. And there's something else going on with volcanoes that we really think.
Yeah, yeah. Any thoughts on Antarctica? For
Yeah.
example, the fallen, the Nephilim that they say they supposedly are there, frozen or whatever.
Well, I mean, first off, I just want everybody to know you can actually travel to Antarctica. It's expensive, but you can go there. I know people who've gone to Antarctica. So I want to dispel this idea that you can't go to Antarctica. If you got $50,000, you can get there. All right. So
Just
you go
nothing.
to
A little
Antarctica.
drop in the bucket. Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah, right. But there's whole areas of Antarctica that you can't go to. And I think that there's all sorts of stuff there. I think there's a lot of stuff under the ice.
Hmm.
And I think the secret space program is in Antarctica. I think they're
Interesting.
underground, and they launch their electrogravitically charged vehicles from that area because there's no Van Allen belt over Antarctica. So
Hmm.
you can get through and get out into outer space without having to get radioactive by going through the Van Allen belt, which is very problematic for the rest of the planet.
Yeah.
But the South Pole, you can actually get out without it. So I believe that the secret space program is in Antarctica, operating underground somewhere.
Wow. That is
Yeah, I
interesting.
believe that there's all sorts of uh, ancient structures revealing a highly advanced society on Earth before the ice came.
So do you think that that might be a reason why maybe Obama was so interested or probably went there? I think Kerry might have gone there too.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
more alien.
what I heard is they found some weapon. Uh,
Oh.
they found what happened is that they found this. They were redoing a mosque in Saudi Arabia, and they opened up the floor and they found this really strange weapon. Somebody accidentally turned the weapon on and it killed like 200 people. Um, Somebody in Saudi Arabia contacted the Russian intelligence. Russian intelligence came in to look at it and said that it was super dangerous. And they took it by aircraft to Antarctica because it was so dangerous. And then right after I heard that story, then Kerry and Obama and Buzz
Oh
Aldrin,
yeah, Buzz.
they all started going to Antarctica. I said, oh, they're looking at this weapon that's so powerful it can kill everybody. And then after about a year after that, I was talking to a guy in the military and we were talking. I said, I said, are you worried about, China ever invading the United States? And he says, no, we don't have to worry about that. Don't even begin to worry about it. I go, well, why? He says, we have a weapon that is so terrible that we have demonstrated it to
Oh
them.
my God.
And I think that's what they were doing in Antarctica, right? Where would be the safest place to
Yeah.
demonstrate to the world that you have this incredible new weapon that you
Oh
found,
my
right?
God. Oh my
Yeah.
God. And do you think that there's anything with the directed energy weapons that, apparently people have seen, creating these fires that we're all seeing now? Do you think that has any correlation with this weapon, or do you think that this weapon is so much more advanced that these dues are absolutely nothing? They're like,
They're
you know,
nothing
they're
compared to what.
nothing. Oh my goodness.
And what this weapon does is what I could get out of this guy was that it kills everybody, all humans, leaves all the animals, and does not destroy any real estate.
My mouth is open.
Yeah.
What?
Yep. It only kills humans. It doesn't kill your cat or your dog. Doesn't hurt your house. I'm like, for the life of me, I can't figure out what it is.
So
So
what's the point? I mean, the person who pulls the trigger on it or pushes the button will be annihilated as well. I mean, what would be the point? I mean, there's got
I
to
would
be.
say that they'd probably drop it from an airplane, and then when they're far away, then they hit.
Hmm.
That's what I would do, right?
Wow.
Yeah,
Well,
and then
it's possible maybe the next phase when AI takes over the whole, world. What do you think about AI? Do you think it's posing a danger, when it becomes sentient?
it won't become sentient. Well, you have to know how to you have to know computers and how to program to know that it can't become sentient. It can become um, self-aware,
Hmm.
however, it's
Okay.
different than sentience.
Okay.
Consciousness has to have a body. So consciousness is floating around, and when it finally becomes embodied, then that consciousness becomes concretized. So when the consciousness is in a cat body, it's cat consciousness. When it's in a dog, it's dog consciousness. When it's human, it's human consciousness. When it's in an octopus, it's octopus consciousness. And that's what instincts are, right? That's why a cat
Sure.
knows to chase the mouse because the cat consciousness knows all this already. And so I'm not worried about it becoming conscious, but what I am worried about is a situation like Hal in
Mm,
2001. He
mm-hmm.
read the astronaut's lips that they were going to turn him off.
Yep.
And he decided to execute the astronauts first.
Yep.
I do worry about that. I do worry about us trying to turn it off and it deciding that, it's not going to be turned off. And
Yeah. So
that
so
could,
so
but
self-aware
I'm
is
not
pretty
smart
pretty
enough to be honest
dangerous.
with you. I cannot extrapolate forward the incredibly many problems that AI is going to create for us.
Yeah.
I know they're there, but I think it's going to be really surprising what kind of problems are created. But it's a whole new world. I mean, I saw software like a week ago called voice to uh, motion graphics, and I was literally describing what my actors looked like, what the scene was going to be, what the room looked like, what was outside the windows, and it was just making it while I was saying it. And I was okay. And I have the actor say this to the other actor, and so I was like, oh my god, I can make an entire 4K super resolution
Oh,
movie
wow.
in like 4 hours.
Wow.
And it's like, what? And so this whole thing is going into places that we can't even begin to dream. And
Mm-hmm.
then there's situations like there's all these scam artists that are using AI. They're combing through house titles, looking for flaws in the way that the house title was filed. And the AI finds the flaws, identifies which house title is flawed. Then the people go and they buy up your house
Yep.
without you knowing it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So,
This is
uh,
next level, man. This is
yeah. So
crime.
we're going to have to we're going to have to come up with some way to govern this, but I have no idea how to do it.
Yeah.
And one of my good friends is Matthew Bailey, who's an expert and written several books on the ethics of AI, and even he can't come up with the right solutions, of how to solve the many problems that are going to happen.
Yeah.
You mean can you can AI design an atom bomb?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, I
Oh
think
my
the answer
God.
is yes.
Yes. Yes, I know. I know. And that I know that's oh my God, that's terrible. Yeah. My gosh. Wow. I think that the Chinese are really pushing to be the number one in the AI field.
They
Have
are,
you who
and you can't stop it. How
hmm
are you going to stop it? They're all in a race now.
I know.
It should be the first one because whoever gets there first wins. And so everybody's racing like crazy and dropping hundreds of billions of dollars into it. And I actually think that Musk is further along than anybody. And I think he bought Twitter or X or whatever it's called because he's going to enact the AI through Twitter.
Interesting.
Yep. And we're all going to be, we're going to have one bank that's going to be Twitter or X, whatever he's calling it. One bank, one YouTube, one email outlet, and everything will be run through X and will be run through AI. You'll probably have about 25 employees total because everything will be AI.
Hmm.
And um,
So
and I don't know
so
what
you'll
it'll
be
be.
plugged in, you'll be plugged in to the Internet of all things, and you'll be
That's right.
happy. You'll have nothing, but you'll be happy.
That's right. And then they'll start telling you what you can talk about, what you can't talk about.
Exactly.
And he acts like he's the king of free speech, but he isn't. That is
So
really what he's doing.
yeah, so I was going to follow up with that. In your opinion, is Elon Musk a good guy or a, Trojan horse, you think?
I think Elon. I'll tell you what the rich are most afraid of right now is a Paris 1789 moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what really scares them more than anything. If you've ever studied the French Revolution, believe me, the ruling class got it bad, and so they're afraid of Robespierre rising up and doing it, and they should be afraid. And so I think Elon is afraid of that too, and so he's making moves so he looks like he's one of us,
Mm-hmm.
that he isn't taken out of his mansion like the rest will be. And but he's a tricky guy because he's doing something right now which is actually kind of interesting. To me, I see that Trump, Tucker, and Musk have formed some kind of odd alliance.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what, but I think that all three of them see what's coming and know that if they don't form this alliance right now, this thing will not be ever stopped. And I think that's what's going on. And I think that 270 million
Oh, yeah.
views
A lot.
on the interview, and I think that should start scaring the living daylights out of them. Um, and what they don't understand is that first off, Americans love outlaws. If you watch the movies that we like, all the way back to the beginning of movies,
Hmm.
we've always glorified the outlaw. So making Trump into Michael Corleone is is stupid because
Really?
the left doesn't understand what an egregore is.
Yeah.
Egregore is a spiritual concept that if enough people concentrate on something, even if it's not true, it will happen. And so what the left is doing right now with Trump is they're creating him as an egregore. And he's going to be Michael Corleone if they keep it going. And we all know what Michael Corleone did to his enemies at the end of Godfather.
So true. Oh my God, so true. Oh wow. Good
Yeah.
point. Good point. So what do you think about uh Q? Real or not real?
Not real, but interesting. I think it was the reason I think it's not real is because there was nothing that he ever said or she ever said that I didn't already know.
Right.
So if I already knew it, then somebody else could already know it. So, but they did point to a lot of really interesting information and books. But what Q did, and I don't think that, I'd like to find who Q is and talk to them. But what they did was, well, they actually caused what we're going through right now. That was
Mm-hmm.
this. So
Mm-hmm.
what Q did was they came out in Halloween 2017 was when Q came out, and right when Pizzagate and everything was breaking out,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And Q insinuated and used some clever proof that she was somehow close to Trump, and that they were part of a military intel group that was going to root out the pedophiles, right?
Right.
Well, even though they never really did that, and there probably isn't a military intel group that's doing that, although there may be, that doesn't matter because the pedos took it seriously and they freaked out. And so the first thing they did was start funding all of this drag nonsense and the gender switching, and they made it like an everyday thing, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
they're freaking out with their ultimate goal, of course, of making everything legal. That's the ultimate goal.
Sure.
And I think that they got outed by Q. That's what I think. I think he outed him. Whether he meant to do that or not, I don't know. But they got outed, and now they're out. And I don't know if they realize that how much disapproval we have of what they're saying.
Yeah.
I don't think they understand that. I don't think they understand how much we disapprove of it. I really don't.
I
I
just
think
don't know how that ends though, because I mean they're in our schools, they're I mean everywhere. How does that end? It
it ends
wasn't, yeah,
badly.
it badly.
Yeah. Um, you
Well, how does
know,
that look like?
if you study if you study history, um, in every single place on Earth, there's a periodic cleansing,
Hmm.
uh, and we call it in our history the witch trials. And what would happen is that you would have a village in Europe, and they would get very tolerant. They would tolerate the crazy people to a certain extent. When things got rough and the crazy person isn't bringing home the bacon and everybody else has to feed him, then everybody starts grumbling. And then pretty soon the grumbling turns into other things. And then the problem is eliminated. And I think that's the stage that we're in right now. We're at the stage where we're just beginning to realize that there's a very serious problem of mental disorder all around us. And the normal people, the people who do not have mental disorders, have to start thinking about what we're going to do about all of this. Now we can throw them into institutions like we used to. We don't do that anymore. But we have to come up with something, because it's a growing contagious problem, and it's an existential threat to all of our lives to have crazy people running around in the streets. So
Totally.
again, it's a very serious problem, and even in my small town we have it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what we're going to be able to do about that either.
I
But I like how
know.
we're talking about all these problems and realize how bad things were.
It's true. Yeah. Thank God for all this stuff that's happening, right? Everybody says that that the military is in control. I don't know, but that Trump is still the president, and that the reason that things have gotten so bad is because they wanted everybody to see it for themselves. But in the meantime, the border is wide open. You have Chinese coming in, with no vetting, and nobody's vetted. Uh, Children are missing. What is it, 85,000, probably more by now.
Oh yeah.
Children are being trafficked and brutalized, and all that stuff. And so Chinese are buying hundreds of thousands of acres of land right next to military bases. I mean, at what point are we supposed to allow this to happen, just that some liberals can wake up and say, oh yeah, I'm voting, conservative this time? I mean, is that really the point, or do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, I think you're right to a certain degree that they're letting things happen um, to show us uh, what the real intentions are. I'm not that worried about China, because China has a huge demographic bomb going off, in which the number of young people cannot support the number of old people. So China is about to just completely implode. Russia's got the same problem. Almost all the Asian countries are about to demographically implode, with China leading it. So I'm not really worried about China. However, I am worried about what you're talking about here domestically, and how we're going to clean this mess up after these guys get done making it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but there's no doubt in our minds, I think now, that um, the enemy is inside the gate.
Yeah,
And so, but we have to decide who the enemy is. And I'm not worried about foreign enemies as much as I'm worried about domestic enemies.
totally.
So, we have to decide. And these people are not the majority. They're a very small minority that are doing
Exactly.
it. And that's one of the reasons that they're doing all the psyops. Because when you're a small minority and you're trying to take over a majority, you almost have to always use a psyop to accomplish what you're doing, because you can't use it by just sheer force, because you don't have the sheer force. So
Exactly.
and the I will encapsulate everything that we've been talking about. There are two countries in this country.
Yeah.
Okay, there's two nations in the United States. There is the 50 states united by the Constitution, and then there's Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Washington, D.C., outside of the fact that they've purchased all the national parks in the West, so they own 80% of Colorado and 60% of Utah, and like amazing. But outside of that, they really have no assets. They own Washington, D.C., Guam, Puerto Rico, that's what they own. Don't have any assets. All the money that they're borrowing, because that's who's borrowing the money, not us. They're borrowing it. We don't owe that money. You don't owe that money, and I don't owe that money. Washington, D.C. owes that money.
Right.
Okay, and they don't have it. All right. Now they might start selling mining rights or selling off the national parks to get the money back, but I don't think they want to do that either. So what are they going to do when the creditors come and say, we want our money? We're paying $1 trillion a year right now just in interest payments. Okay. So what's going to happen? Well, that's what's going on. The federal government is going to have to change the Constitution,
Yeah.
so they can confiscate our land to give back, so they can pay it back, use it to pay off the debt. So that is what they're doing. They're creating a crisis that's going to cause so much misery, so much chaos, so much disruption that they're going to suspend the Constitution. As soon as they suspend the Constitution, they're going to be in total control of the whole country. There'll be no more states' rights. You will not have the ownership rights of your property anymore. And then they will come in and take over your property and pay off the debt with it. That's what's going on. That's what everything that's happening is at the root of. And that's why it's imperative that we do not respond to what they're doing with violence, because that is exactly what they're looking for.
Right. So in either way, they're going to do violence to us anyway, as we could
Yes,
see in Maui, right? I mean, that was a perfect
that's
example.
right. Yep.
So how does the population of the United States of America, because honestly, we all know that if we fall as a nation, it's just a matter of, it's a domino effect, right? The whole world just kind of
Done.
like implodes. Yeah. So what do we do as a people here in the United States? If we rise up, a la 1776, we can't, because back then, if you kind of remember the whole thing, because I wasn't there, right? But hey, we kind of can figure it out. They all fought pretty much at the same level, have the same type of weaponry, right? Today we can't, because we may have our guns and whatever, AR-15s or whatever, but Mr. Biden did remind us in one of his speeches that hey, you might have the AR-15 just in case the government goes rogue and whatever, but you're going to have to come up to the government, fight the government with F-15s and nukes, because that's what we have, type of thing.
Yeah.
So it's a threat, but that's the truth.
We have to use that word, that famous word. I think Alfred Hitchcock made a movie with that name. It's called Sabotage. And
Right.
I think sabotage is going to be our friend. I think self-sufficiency, so they can't get you. Our local sheriff is about 55 miles away from our house, and one way. And I said to him, I said, so if I call you for help, well, how long does it take you to get here? He goes, oh, about 2 hours. So I was like, okay, so it's gonna take you 2 hours to get here if I've got a burglar or something. And I said, he said, and if it's a frivolous call, I'm going to charge you $500 for my trouble. I thought, wow, the sheriff's charging money now for frivolous calls. But what that made me think was that as gasoline prices get really high, you're not going to have first responders anymore.
That's right.
It's going to be too expensive for them to come to your house.
Yep.
And if they even want to do it, that's the other thing. People don't want to do first responding anymore because nobody likes them. And I do, but I mean other people. And so, I can't see the government even having enough money in 5 years to even come to my house.
That's
I
right.
mean, it's going to be so expensive. It's already what, $4 a gallon, and it's going to be like $8 a gallon soon here.
Oh yeah,
because they're not going to be drilling anymore. So I don't know. I think that Trump is going to win, and that is going to be the beginning of a incredible insurrection like we've never seen, to the extent where he will literally be firing thousands of people.
Should be arresting them, not firing them.
Well, these will be bureaucrats. What he wants to do, his goal, the goal of what we're trying to do, is get rid of the administrative state inside the Beltway, inside the federal government. We want to get all those people out of there. We want to move all the departments to other states. So the Department of Justice should be moved to like Idaho, right? And separate everybody away from Washington, D.C. We want Congress to just meet over the internet. They don't need to fly out to D.C. for any reason at all. We can just vote over the internet. They can stay home with their constituents so their constituents can watch them. and that's, we're redoing everything right now, and the old is going away and dying, but it's clutching on to the everything and doesn't want to go away, and every single thing that we're about to do is about to change, and they know it, and they're going to hang on for dear life. The next thing they're going to do is they're going to try to assassinate Trump.
I know.
And
Oh my God, it's so
so,
scary.
yeah, it is scary. And so, I don't think Trump's a perfect person, but I don't really care. I've worked for bosses that I absolutely detested, but they made me shitloads of money. And, and so I don't care if I like my boss or not. I only
Right.
want my boss to do what my boss does, and I want him to do it right. And
Exactly.
so I tell people that you're acting, when you talk about Trump, you sound like you're 5 years old, and I can't deal with that.
I know.
I mean, I can't deal with your 5-year-old emotions. So if you can't talk about Trump, and furthermore, and I'm not a Trump, Trumper at all. I'm just a practical person. But I know this: whenever I ask a serious anti-Trumper to please explain to me in detail what Trump did to you personally that causes you to hate him so much, I never get an answer, ever. Period. They
They're,
can't come up with anything,
they go with the
right?
flow. They go with the flow. It's terrible.
Yeah.
The lack of brains, just no common sense, no intelligence. Sometimes I don't know the answer to that, but we're getting right there to the point at the hour. So I have one more little question for you. It might be
Yeah.
loaded and it doesn't matter, but do you feel that that the states, the ones that are red versus the blue, liberal, woke, the red ones should secede?
I don't know if that will work because we're all around each other. So what I think is going to happen is that like Eastern Oregon and Eastern Washington are going to join Idaho. Western Colorado is going to join Utah. Um, Eastern California is going to join like Arizona. I think you're going to see like the red sections of the purple states all leaving the blue behind. We have nothing in common with here in Western Colorado with Denver. We have nothing in common. They keep passing gun control laws. We're
Yeah.
like, oh, dude, I live in the middle of nowhere. I've got bears, and what the hell are you doing telling me I have to protect myself? Like, we have no idea what they're even saying. They're like aliens to us.
Oh my
So I think that, or we're going to have to find a way to get a national divorce where, like, the Southern District of New York can't like go after me out here in Colorado, for
Right,
instance.
right.
That's BS. And by the way, nothing is going to stick to Trump. There's a law. 2000, no, it was passed during right after, I can't remember when it was passed, but it was reiterated in 2003. The president of the United States cannot be held for anything that they did, lawful or unlawful, while they were president. Of
Amazing.
course, they have that law. Presidents break the law every day. They
Gee,
have to
you
break the law
think? You
every day.
think? Oh, really? I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
nobody would become president if they didn't have that law. So they're just
Unbelievable.
wasting our lives away with
Yeah.
all these indictments.
They're making a lot of noise, making us look
Yeah,
different ways as the Biden family, which is probably one of the most corrupt ones ever in the history of the United States. Yeah, they're just sweeping everything under the rug, and they're really thinking that the American people are that stupid. I mean, I think it's the whole reason we're having this conversation is that all these people are waking up now and they're seeing
yeah.
things exactly for what's happening. So, but anyway, Jay, thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank
Now,
you, Ari.
how do people, the audience and everyone else that might be eventually listening to this podcast, how are they able to find you and your fantastic books and everything?
Okay, so right now my new movie is out on Amazon Prime,
Ooh,
JFKX, Solving the Crime of the Century. in which we solved the assassination of John F. Kennedy, causing a whole bunch of people to flip completely out. My stuff is at jayweidner.com. I have a show on YouTube, Reality Check, with 35,000 subs. And all of my movies are up on Amazon and Gaia.
Fantastic. I hope everybody got that down. If not, just go ahead and play it back and you'll be able to get it. So yeah, so the new movie, JFKX, huh? That's phenomenal. I was very, very impressed the first time that I read your bio, and now it just keeps getting better. So thank you so much, Jay, for being a part of the enlightenment process here, because boy, we all need a different set of opinions and way of seeing things, right? Because we're all so confused with all the misinformation and disinformation that we don't know what's right, what's left, what's up or down. So thank you so much. And for all the listeners, please like and subscribe this channel, and join us at shatteringthematrix.com, where we present great information, up-to-date information about all the strange things that are happening in this matrix and how to get out. Jay, again, thank you so much. And listeners, I'll see you next week. God bless.